Car. Philadelphia police have found the burned out vehicle they believe belonged to an off-duty officer who was carjacked overnight. Steve, give me more details on this.
Well, they know it's his vehicle. This was a 2020 Toyota Highlander, and it was in the officer's possession as he arrived home from work. And if you don't know this, cops don't usually wear their uniforms to and from work or their complete uniform. That's why it's a lot fresher when you put it on. I do the same thing. So he is mostly out of uniform, and still we know that doesn't even deter anybody, as we saw another uniformed officer this week. But we're right on Delancey Street, and you see police blocking off both the 60th Street side and the 59th Street side, and even the street was closed all the way to 60th and Spruce. As soon as I got out over there at the first officers and the first fire department guys, I smelled gasoline in the air from a block away as I walked up to this, and it feels like I bathed in gasoline. That's how strong the odor is. So you don't need to be a fire marshal to know this was torched intentionally, and it's completely burned down. In fact, this thing was so intensely on fire, the sunroof appears to have popped off like a cork as it melted and landed about 25 feet away on the sidewalk that I'm standing on over there. And so what happened was this officer's carjacked at 2 a.m. by what appeared to be a young male in a hooded sweatshirt with a Glock. And the officer, as soon as he can, gets an opening. He has his officer's revolver with him, and he fires shots in self-defense, and he believes he clips the carjacker, who speeds away in the Toyota Highlander, and likely shot because as he's speeding away, he crashes into a red vehicle soon after the carjacking, leaves the scene of that crash. Then they don't know where the car is, but suddenly a 15-year-old shows up at Penn Presbyterian's emergency room, dropped off by a car that also speeds away like it's in a drag race after it drops off the 15-year-old, who always has an interesting story to tell, how he was allegedly shot being held up or whatever. So the officer gets sent over there to ID that guy to see if he can definitely say, hey, there's the size, height, weight, and the eyes of the guy that put a gun in my face and took my Toyota Highlander. Then 4 hours after the carjacking, we get the call as the fire department comes here to a fire, and they realize it's a 2020 Toyota Highlander. The plate is torched, every seat is burned out, all the windows are melted, and that is what's left of a police officer's car, as they think they got the carjacker being held as a prisoner over at Penn Presby with a gunshot wound, likely from the officer who fired in self-defense. So that young man is lucky he's alive. And this, again, we started our day. This is our third gun violence story. We had a murder last night at the cookout. Then we had a 17-year-old killed, not too far away from where we are here. We started at 61st and Buick with the shooting of a 17-year-old that sounds like a mob hit. And here we are with talking about another teenager shot because he was shot likely by a Philadelphia police officer who was held up for his Toyota Highlander after working a tough shift at 2 a.m. So there you go. The gun violence just doesn't let up as we go from story to story to story. And then this one, quite interesting. The only good thing about this is this car was parked up on the opposite sidewalk, not near any homes. You can see what is a definite abandoned house closest to it with all the weeds that look like trees now. And that is a good thing. At least they didn't torch anybody else's car, or somebody's house could have caught fire because this thing was really going, as you can tell.
Wow. What a night. And all those people that have been involved in all those shootings that we cover, you know, there's a satellite of people around them. They're family members, you know what I mean? I mean, so many people affected by each one of these shootings.
It's to the point now, if you come across someone in Philly, they know someone, whether it's a family member or a close friend, everyone knows someone who's been affected directly.
I know that one of our viewers yesterday said, please don't become numb to these stories, and we try not to. And she's absolutely right. I mean, she lost a loved one to gun violence, and it you know, it almost triggers her every time we talk about a shooting.
When people talk about the numbers, these are people whose lives have been lost.
Let's don't get numb. We'll try to be better about that on our show.